Hey all, Turbot here. Long time no see, huh? Anyway, today I'm going to do a video about my trip to Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day and on the Women's March on Washington. It's been like 2 months since I went, so I had to write a script on my iPad so I remember all the details. Anyway, let's get into it. I got together with a group called Fight Back Pittsburgh. I met a guy named Zarian on the bus who turned into being my tour guide since he had been to D.C. a few times before. I told him about the group from Colorado who was going to be passing out some free blunts tomorrow, and he said he'd like to give me a taste beforehand just so I'm used to it because he smokes weed every day. So we went out at night and tried to find a quiet spot where there wasn't too many people, like in an alley. Weed is legal in D.C., but illegal to smoke in public. Anyway, he says here, and then he gave me his miniature bong with, you put the grass on one end and you light that, and then you inhale on the other. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, I smoked the weed, and immediately my stomach felt better, and my headache went away, and I felt really, really calm. Like, the calmest I have ever felt in my life. I don't see why it's illegal, because it worked fine for me. Anyway, we stayed at St. Stephen's Church in Columbia Heights. I also met a guy and his girlfriend and another friend that night. Another friend, she was like a shorter, cuter version of Katie Bacon, and Zarian noticed I was coming on a little too strong to her, and I was like, oh shit. It's because I have Asperger's. It's harder for people with Asperger's to differentiate between friendship hints and relationship hints, so it's much tougher for me. Anyway, I sent her a friend request a little later on Facebook, but she didn't block me per se, but she got to the point where I couldn't be friends with her. But hey, you gotta roll with the punches, I guess. Anyway, the guy gave me his extra sleeping bag because all I had was like a little carrying case, and I was just going to use that as a pillow. Very nice people, I might add. I think they were anarchists because we went with them the night before inauguration to Target, a local place. And they were buying like black everything. Black hoodies, black sunglasses, black gloves, if I remember. Because there were going to be a human physical wall between some black protesters and some neo-Nazi Trump supporters. I was like, damn that, So next day, inauguration, was the group from Colorado that was passing out the free blunts. We decided to head over there at DuPont Circle, or however you pronounce it. At first, we thought it was in a certain spot. But then when we saw some weed tents, we headed over, and there was already a line about maybe 20 people an hour before it was supposed to start. As it got closer, the crowd of about a couple hundred people started rushing in front of us and jumping over like the chain fences that, protect the grass and everything. And it was hilarious. As we waited, volunteers from the group came around on the side of the line and passed out exactly 420 Krispy Kreme donuts to the entire group. And it also turns out they brought about a total of 8,000 blunts, and they ran out every single one of them. They checked our IDs since you had to be 21 and over. I'm just 21, now I'm 22. Regardless, while I was watching, I could see and hear a few helicopters flying away from us and a few police cars speeding with their sirens down the street. Eventually, we got to the front of the line and we both got 2 blunts. But it turned out, after us, everyone was getting 3, so we decided to go back to the back of the line and get another one this time around. The line had to be wrapped around 3 blocks. It was crazy. After this, around this time, we decided to head down towards the Washington Monument, where you could watch it on the big screens about the people being sworn in, and down the direction of the Capitol building. Soldiers and police with military Humvees blocked off some of the streets. We had to go through a checkpoint to get into the inner area on the outskirts of the Washington Monument. Zarian decided to take our blunts and put them in his gum case to blend in, hoping and making sure that the soldiers didn't see. Thankfully, they didn't notice. By this time, they had multiple screens hooked up, so you could see the vice president and the president being sworn in, and there were some protesters outside the gates that you may have seen in the picture a couple seconds ago. And when Pence was about to be inaugurated, people started booing. Me, Zarian, and another guy we had met in line moved closer in the direction of the Capitol building. Then we decided, even though smoking weed in public is illegal in D.C., I said, fuck it, I don't care who sees us. Mind you, we're surrounded by a majority of Trump supporters in their red caps all around saying, "Yeah, Donnie, fucking A, get those damn Muslims." Assholes. The majority of them look like inbred hillbilly rednecks anyway. So we took the blunts out and we got high during Trump's speech. At the end, I gave both middle fingers to the screen. After this, I got lost and the other two guys disappeared, so I decided to go with the flow of the other people. As I was heading back, I was pretty tired and out of shape, like always. I decided to sit down on the side of a wall, when all of a sudden two photographers with their circular long-end cameras came up to me and said, "Can we get a shot, please?" And I was like, "Yeah, hold on." So I put back my John Lennon sunglasses on and gave them both to the peace sign. To this day, I've never found out who those guys were, and I have not found that picture yet. If you guys see a picture of a guy who looks like me giving a peace sign in some rainbow sunglasses, send it to me on Twitter or down in the comments to the link. Anyway, after this, I decided to head back down the direction I came from because I wanted to see where it led. That is when I saw some 13 or 14-year-old punks starting to throw rocks and glass at the police in riot gear. Then the pepper spraying started. And somehow someone managed to set a limousine on fire and start smashing all the windows. And this is where I'm going to import the news clips of the severity and chaos in those moments. So take a look.
Not everyone gathered here in Washington today came to celebrate President Trump's inauguration. Protesters lined part of the parade route, and in some parts of the Capitol, there were confrontations with police. And tomorrow here in Washington, a women's march and demonstrations planned across this country. ABC's David Curley witnessed the protests firsthand.
The anger reaching a boiling point in the nation's capital after President Trump took the oath of office. Police in riot gear facing off against the protesters just 6 blocks from the inaugural parade. Unleashing pepper spray, concussion grenades, all to disperse the crowd.
They've been using pepper spray out of canisters. So you have the bulk of the protesters right here, and here's the police line right at 13th.
Trash cans, and then 3 vehicles set on fire.
2 vehicles have been ignited. The fire folks have just moved in.
Many of the protesters cloaked in black with their faces covered.
The protesters had filled the street with several trash cans, and now police and fire are trying to move them out of the way.
Earlier in the day, self-proclaimed anarchists smashed Washington storefronts with hammers. Across the country, there were other but peaceful protests in dozens of cities, from Boston to Minneapolis. These people forming a human chain across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Well, the police are rushing this group of protesters right here. A flashbang just went off. Bricks and rocks being thrown right here at the police. They have just rushed down 12th Street trying to knock some of these protesters down that way.
By this time, everyone was running towards me with the police in full attack mode. I managed to spray some water in one guy's face before hightailing it out of there. I called Zarian. Turns out he was back at the spot where we got the weed, so about 45-minute walk if you're in good shape, which I'm not. Anyway, we met up, and the rest of the night went very much more smoothly. The next day was the Women's March on Washington. Me, Zarian, and a few other guys took an Uber outside of where the stage and everything was being set up. We managed to get there about 2.5 hours early, and even then the stage was pretty far away from us. There were quite a few posters that interesting to me that I'll intersperse right here. And here is a little bit of the footage from the event.
We America, and we are here to stay.
This is the upside of the downside. We are the people, we have people power, and we will use it.
We are not here to be debunked. We are here to be respected. We are here to be nasty.
To expand on a historic quote by my heroine and friend Hillary Clinton, reproductive rights are human rights.
There is nothing more powerful than a group of determined sisters marching alongside with their partners and their determined sons and brothers and fathers, standing up for what we know is right.
I ask you to support all women and our fight for equality in all things, including the fight to be recognized as individuals who know better for ourselves what is right for our bodies.
We know that not until every woman and girl in this country has the chance to reach their God-given potential, that America will not reach hers.
There happened to be at least 500,000 people who managed to show up. We were supposed to march to the Washington Monument at about 1, and people were still speaking at 2:30, so people were starting to get antsy, especially people who've been there since 10, I think like us. And our group included, decided to go back and start ourselves. What happened was that the police said there was too many people, so they blocked off the main road that we would march down to the Washington Monument. So we decided to march to the White House instead with our protesting signs along with all the others. It had to be a good 25-30 minute walk before we actually got to a point on the street where it wasn't just stop and go, packed in like sardines, because there was that many people. I'd never seen that many people in my life. People managed to lay their protest signs on the outskirts of the White House against the wall. I decided to head back up towards Columbia Heights, but since I got lost again, I didn't have my tour guide. So I decided to ride the Washington Metro for the first time. The people on there were very nice to me, and they were very encouraging and led the way for me. We managed to get back to Pittsburgh around 11 o'clock that night. On the bus, a woman who sounded and looked a lot like Carrie Fisher gave me the pin and dick sticker that you shall see here. I can't tell you guys how good it felt to be around a shit ton of people who share the same views as you, and that we came together and became united against a corrupt and illegitimate president and his bastard's administration. I love the feeling of having been part of something historic. With all the women's marches around the country, there were no arrests. The Women's March was the single biggest one-day protest in American history, and the largest in Washington, D.C. since the anti-Vietnam War protests in the 1960s and 70s. And that's about it. That was one hell of a first trip to Washington, I might say. Hell of a first visit. Anyway, you guys have already noticed my peace sign. You've seen that in that last video. And this just came in the mail the other day. This shirt. I'm directly challenged. Anyway, yeah, resist. And that'll wrap it up. Anyway, till you guys see me again in GTA, or another video, or any other games I've done, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this story, and I'll catch you guys next time.